1,000 cubic kilometers of ash, rocks, and lava. That's how much volcanic debris Yellowstone will release into the atmosphere if it were to erupt this year. Just to give you a rough idea, that's enough to bury the entire state of Texas under a 6-foot layer of volcanic waste. Every year, Yellowstone National Park attracts over 4 million visitors who come to enjoy the mesmerizing beauty of its breathtaking geysers, hot springs, and diverse wildlife. But under the serene landscape lies an active supervolcano so massive that if it were to erupt, it could result in a catastrophe of biblical proportions. For decades, Yellowstone National Park has been labeled as a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. And with each passing second, that moment is getting closer and closer. But how would such an eruption affect our environment? And most importantly, what impact would it have on our daily lives? The raw power of supervolcanoes. Now, just in case it's new to you, Yellowstone is not your average volcano. It's a supervolcano. Unlike ordinary volcanoes, supervolcanoes stockpile their explosive power for hundreds of thousands of years. They have these massive magma reservoirs deep underground, getting hotter by the day and building pressure for thousands of years. In fact, you can think of these volcanoes like a giant pressure cooker. With pressure slowly building up down there, these supervolcanoes are just like a powder keg waiting for a spark. And that spark for supervolcanoes is when the rocks in the Earth's surface just can't handle the pressure and heat anymore. The second these rocks crack under pressure and strain, the result is an eruption so powerful it makes other volcanoes seem like mere firecrackers. Plus, when we think of volcanic eruptions, we usually imagine rivers of molten lava. However, some supervolcanoes are different. They don't overflow. Instead, they eject their magma high into the sky, that too, as airborne ash particles. Eruption that defies imagination. So when Yellowstone erupts, billions of tons of gas and ash will shoot up at crazy supersonic speeds. To put things into perspective, in case Yellowstone erupts this year, it could release an estimated 2,500 times more volcanic ash and debris than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, a volume so high that it would dwarf the ash output of even the largest volcanic eruptions in modern history. And that's catastrophic, because the cloud cover this would form alone would be big enough to cover parts of the USA and Canada. What's more noteworthy are the ripple effects of such a huge explosion that will be felt worldwide. The Toba eruption. Some 74,000 years ago, when Indonesia's Toba supervolcano erupted, the scale of its consequences were so colossal that it caused a volcanic winter worldwide. And yes, volcanic winter is an actual term. It refers to the cooling of the planet for a while. Many historians even believe that the eruption of Indonesia's Toba supervolcano might have led to a genetic bottleneck in human evolution, where the human population was significantly reduced. In simple words, supervolcanoes have the power to rewrite the course of history itself, forever changing our lives. So, in case Yellowstone erupts this year, brace yourself for a domino effect of global consequences that could shake the very foundations of our existence. The impact on North America. Sadly, if you live in North America, there's a strong possibility you wouldn't even get time to evacuate. It'd be tough to do much because when that eruption happens, it will wreak havoc all across the continent, faster than any car could travel. This would lead to the tragic death of hundreds of thousands of individuals within a 1,000-kilometer radius of the eruption. Plus, as people would breathe in the ash-laden air, the fine particles would infiltrate deep into their lungs, causing severe irritation and inflammation. As a result, the healthcare system would face an overwhelming demand for medical attention, hospital beds, and respiratory equipment. The demand for specialized care and treatment facilities to handle the respiratory issues caused by ash exposure would push the healthcare resources to the brink, which of course would lead to a national emergency. Worldwide impact. Areas outside North America will be covered in a 1-centimeter thick blanket of ash, affecting crops and water supplies. Now, it's easy to dismiss this thin layer, but let's dive into how it could affect the world. For starters, this seemingly thin layer of ash would smother crops and hinder their growth. This could lead to crop failures, food shortages, and increased food prices, affecting not only the regions directly hit, but also nations reliant on imports from those areas. And remember, when food becomes scarce and expensive, it's not just your wallet that takes a hit. It's the most vulnerable in society that feel the harshest blow, the ones who already struggle to put food on the table. Simply put, it's not just about food disappearing from the store shelves. It's about families, neighborhoods, and even entire countries teetering on the edge of hunger. Everyday people, just like you and me, not knowing where their next meal will come from. It's a scenario that hits hard, but it's not some distant movie plot. It's a harsh reality we could very well face if Yellowstone were to blow its top. Plus, the ash could also sneak into water supply systems, making freshwater sources unsafe to drink. And to combat that, we need some serious purification and infrastructure repairs to make things right, which would only be possible with a robust transportation system. But here's the twist. Ashfall would disrupt the transportation systems too. From the roads we drive on to the airports we fly from, the functionality of every mode of transport will be compromised, meaning a lot of people will be left stuck with unsafe water to drink. As a consequence, waterborne diseases could become a grim reality. These illnesses, often caused by pathogens thriving in contaminated water, can spread like wildfire, affecting not just a few individuals, but entire communities. Vulnerable groups like the elderly, children, and those already weakened by other conditions would be at the greatest risk. A never-ending winter. In addition, with the sun blocked due to the volcanic cloud, temperatures worldwide would start to plummet. And no, by that, we don't mean a brief cold spell. We're talking about a prolonged icy weather that's like a never-ending winter. And that's problematic, because when the world starts getting chillier, it will throw our weather systems into utter chaos. The climate would go haywire, and the ecosystems would suffer big time. It's like a domino effect where one thing leads to another, and before you know it, the entire equilibrium of nature is thrown off balance. Climate changes could cause habitat loss, disrupt migration patterns, and even alter the behavior of many species. Some plants and animals may struggle to adapt to the sudden and prolonged cold, leading to declines in populations and even extinctions. Plus, as the temperature keeps dropping, people will be cranking up their heaters and using more electricity, which could overload the power grids. That spells out more blackouts and heating fuel shortage, making daily life a whole lot harder. All this is to say, if the Yellowstone erupts this year, it's not just the USA or Canada that would bear the brunt. The whole world would be in for an apocalyptic front row seat. All of which begs the question, should we start preparing, or is it a case of too little, too late? Will Yellowstone erupt this year? Well, thankfully, experts seem to be giving us good news. The possibility of Yellowstone erupting this year is not something we need to lose sleep over. Yellowstone is no doubt a massive supervolcano, but its eruptions are few and far between. They usually play out over thousands or tens of thousands of years. In fact, the odds of Yellowstone erupting this year are even lower than the odds of our planet getting hit by a civilization-destroying asteroid. Plus, scientists are always keeping a close eye on Yellowstone 24/7. They've got some early warning systems in place to catch any unusual activity. Numerous studies indicate that signs of a catastrophic eruption might become noticeable several weeks, months, or even years in advance. And as of right now, no such signs have been observed. In other words, the immediate threat of Yellowstone blowing its top this year is pretty darn low. Having said that, next time you get the chance to visit Yellowstone, admire not just its beauty and captivating geothermal wonders, but also the incredible forces at play deep within our planet. Because at the end of the day, Yellowstone isn't just any national park. Beneath its breathtaking landscapes, it hides a colossal giant, quietly sleeping under the Earth's surface.